See if we can, yes. We're up and running. We are up and running. We have to do roll call. Okay. We're going to do roll call. All right. Is everybody prepared? We're going to do roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Supervisor Arroyo.
Here.
Supervisor Madrone.
Present.
Supervisor Bushnell.
Good afternoon.
Chair Wilson.
Present.
Supervisor Bone. All are here.
Great. All right, we're going to move on. Can we get a staff report? Yes.
Point of order, flag salute
Oh,
first, please.
okay, let's do that then. Merritt, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
Thank you, yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, you did an excellent job. All right, so here we are. I'm going to let, does the CAO or the sheriff want to take charge of this one?
This is the sheriff's.
You guys are staring each other down, so
Hey,
Sheriff
I'm
Hansel?
always going to yield to the CAO.
Okay.
So, but thank you, ma'am. in this time. Thank you, Chair and Board. Today, I'm going to present to you a ratification of a local emergency proclamation. This is due to the 5-alarm fire that occurred in the city of Arcata on January 2nd. We all saw this play out on social media. We've all probably seen it in person. This is a horrific fire. My compliments to Arcata Fire and all the fire suppression efforts. Just talking to Chief Emmons this morning, over 2 million gallons of water was spent on this fire to make sure that it was only contained to that one block. This is one of those things based upon wind and the fuels. I mean, this could have been a catastrophic event for the city, and so we're thankful that it was just contained to one block. Over the weekend, the city assessed the situation. They brought in environmental health, and due to a lot of the contaminants that were in these buildings, a lot of contaminants and hazardous waste was potentially pushed down into the wastewater and stormwater systems in the city of Arcata, which again flows to various creeks, sloughs, and ultimately the bay. At that point in time, environmental health from the county recommended that we bring in experts from California EPA and other state agencies to assess the situation, to test, to make sure that any of the assistance that we needed could be there to help with potential cleanup. And at that point in time, they wanted to declare a local emergency because there's resources that they need outside the county. At that point, based upon that circumstances, we declared a local emergency, which provided the information in the staff report here today for you to consider the ratification of that local emergency.
Okay. I guess I'll have a couple of statements, but we're just going to go with the staff recommendations. So if I could get a motion to do that, and then we can move forward.
So moved.
Okay.
I'm happy to second that. However, I wanted to I wanted to ask the chair if somebody,
Yep, we're going to do public comment, and we're going to have the folks come up and give their
there we go. Thank you.
their comment. So I'm going to first ask folks from Arcata, representing Arcata, if you have anything to say in support of what we're doing here today. This is your time to do that. Or I guess you could not be in support of that, I suppose, but I don't think that's why you're here. So by all means.
Thank you, Chair Wilson. I really don't have a lot to add beyond what the sheriff stated. I think he summed it up. And really, one of the big questions we have right now is the assessment. There was a lot of water put onto that fire. There was a paint store that was involved in the fire. So there's a lot that went into the storm drains. And right now, we just don't have the capacity to assess that. And so we've forwarded that to county, and we really want to be able to leverage those state resources to make sure we're doing everything that we can to protect our waterways in the bay. And so that's really the big one. Really, our secondary focus too is to support those businesses, the property owners, and the residents who are displaced. That's probably going to be a much lower dollar amount, but at this point, that is our secondary focus along to focus on cleaning up the environment, assessing it, cleaning up the environment, and then also helping our property owners. And I'll just say that I appreciate the support from the county, in particular County Environmental Health. Maja Hoya was there and really helped us with our incident command. Sheriff Hansel came and got his paperwork done for this emergency and proclaimed that shortly after the city did. So I really appreciate how quick that the county and county staff came to support the city in this. And our focus will be really on showing the community how resilient we can be to get this cleaned up and make sure we're being as protective as we can of the environment. So.
All right. Want to hear from the fire chief and the police?
Yeah, I want to second what Merritt said. Thank you to the sheriff and the county for the support on this. But I also want to just say from the standpoint of the incident itself, the initial incident, this was a countywide event. We were pulling resources from WEOT all the way into Arcata for this incident. We had volunteer firefighters, state resources that came from CAL FIRE, WEOT, Riadel, the Eel River Valley, north of us to Trinidad, and up to Neeland. And without all of the support from all the agencies we had about 80 firefighters on scene, plus additional support personnel that were there. And the one thing about Humboldt County is they pull together in time of need. We needed them. So I appreciate that. And I just wanted to say thanks to everybody that came and helped us, as well as the county resources they came as soon as we called for them. And one of the things from the fire standpoint, we always do after actions, just like many other agencies, and some of the things that always come out is communications report. Not in this one. It was really good communication between all agencies, so I commend everybody for their professionalism on that. So, thank you.
Okay. Do we have anyone online?
We do not, Chair.
Okay, so before we move to approve this, and which is the ratification of the local emergency proclamation and the forward of it to Cal OES, and also designating Patrick as the interim emergency service program manager to operate all these things, I have just a couple notes. I was actually driving back from visiting my kid when the fire broke out. So I was driving along the 101, and my phone blew up, of course. And it was really tough to watch in a remote sense. It was just, so it was like, hurry back as quickly as possible. I want to say I live a couple blocks away from the fire. The folks staying at our house were inundated with smoke, and the whole neighborhood was impacted. Also, there's another piece of property that I have nearby that the tenant was spraying it down with water to make sure. So it wasn't just this half block, but it was impactful to the entire neighborhood. So I want to say we lost many businesses: Northtown Books, Dandor's Board Games, portions of Hensel's. I want to say personally, like every person who has a project in Arcata lost their records in terms of their paint colors. So everyone's trying to remember their paint colors, elephant tusk and whatever, and all the things. Everyone's like trying to write them all down. And those cards, those cards went back years. It wasn't just at Hensel's. They were collected from the other paint store that had burned down, and then from the other one that had closed. And so it was just the records of that. Northtown Books, I want to say it's like 60 years of one of the most amazing bookstores on the planet. And I want to remind people that you can still order books through their website, then you can have them delivered to your house. So please, by all means, do that. But also, if you are an Audible books person, like you can actually do your Audible books through a different format of platform, which supports independent bookstores, and they have that as well. So by all means, if you want to support Northtown Books, I want to say that Dandor's Board Games was amazing. I'm hoping that they just started, and it was just so cool to walk by there and see all the people in there playing the games in the backs and in the back, and just joyfully doing that. It was just wonderful. The gallery that had just opened up, it had some amazing artists. The Humboldt Exchange, and then and the others as well as another artist studios as well. So there's just and then the apartments and the people who lost their homes, and and so there's GoFundMe's out there. You can find them on Facebook and other places. Please, by all means, donate. And I just want to say, it wasn't just the businesses as like economic assets, but each one of them had their own community. If you went into them, you would always see many people the same there. They just were all community. They're all their own community centers, the hardware store and everybody else. And so, they weren't just, they were artists, they were board game players, there were world travelers. There's all kinds of folks in that half block. And so we're going to work really hard to rebuild, move people into other places where that can happen, and hopefully get there. And I just want deepest thanks to everybody who responded, both to the city and the county and all our public safety folks. So I just want to be very, very thankful. And then there's just a whole community of folks that are being outwardly loving and helpful to those folks who've been impacted. So with that, I'm happy to, we've already had a motion and a second, and Supervisor Arroyo, you got something to say?
Yeah, just huge thanks to all the agencies who offered mutual aid and support, and to you all for leading the charge. I know the people sitting in this room in front of us are going to do the lion's share of the recovery work, which is a hard and slow process. And I know it's Mike's district and community, but it's all of our community. And so I just also want to say our hearts go out to those who lost pets. I know that happened. So grateful that no human lives were lost, but that's a really big deal. And livelihoods and irreplaceable art and pieces of culture. Physical things can be replaced, but it's just especially painful that there was public art and privately owned art that people poured their lives into that was lost. So it's also incredible to see the outpouring of community support. People have been incredibly generous to give to one another. Speaking of mutual aid in this time of need, so mutual aid from agencies and from individuals has been abundant, and I trust that we will even be able to leverage more resources through this emergency declaration in the more formal channels. But it is really truly remarkable to see how Humboldt steps up in our informal. Our web of community connections in times like this. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you. Supervisor Wishno.
So I echo my colleagues and just want to say thank you to them for all the mutual aid from the fire departments. Chris reference to that, and I know all those departments are so eager to help, and the community as well is so eager to help. Thank you to the sheriff for the declaration of emergency to help Arcata recover, and to all the folks that lost. It's so huge and devastating to lose in a fire, and for days and days you go around thinking, what else was there that I can't remember? And that's just really tough. To Merritt, the city manager, and to OES, and to the new police chief, it's just a lot for that community. And we also, during this time, had torrential floodings and downpours and king tides and all the things. It's like that, whatever they reference to. And we just wish a good recovery to Arcata. Mike, I'm sure that it was terrible to be afar when this happened. It's terrible not to be able to get to your community fast enough to help. So thank you, and us wish a speedy recovery and the cleanup's going to be, especially with the paint store. So,
Supervisor Madrone.
Thank you, Chair. I have a quick question for Merritt, and then also a question for the sheriff. Merritt, there was some news that happened while this was happening that there was unsatisfactory pressure at the hydrants. Is that actual, or what was going on?
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I checked in with our water department, and they were able to provide a steady water supply, and they were in touch with folks at Humboldt Bay to make sure they were aware of the situation and monitoring. So we had full tanks. We were able to provide constant pressure. I'll let the chief speak to whether they wanted more. I think, would they like more? Yes, but we had steady state. We didn't lose pressure. We had continuity over time, and our water supply did not diminish. And I think what you always think about is, what if it had been a couple more blocks and we had more hydrants open? And so one of the things we'll be doing in the hot wash from this is, in hot wash, talking about what are lessons learned, but what could we do to help have a more resilient water system moving forward. And so we're definitely going to look for, were there any areas that we had shortage, but we did have a steady water supply, and I'll leave it to Chief Emmons to say if they had enough or wish they wanted more.
Great, thank you.
So we had adequate flow. At the peak of the fire, we were flowing about 9,000 gallons per minute. It wasn't a matter of the pressure. It was more a matter of the flow. We had plenty of flow, but the pressure, we were diminishing the pressure. It's like you can only get so much water through the system. So, but as far as it was adequate, we weren't going to run out. We weren't anywhere near running out of water. It's just a matter of trying to pull it as fast as we can.
So even if you have a pipeline from Humboldt Bay Water, storage is important, because if you run out of that storage, then the water can only come as fast as they can treat it, and with high turbidity, it gets difficult to treat in those storm conditions.
Correct.
I just wanted to find out what was going on, because the media has said something about low pressure or whatever. So, and you know, as far as storage, this idea of distributed storage, everybody having a 5,000 gallon tank in their backyard with a 3-inch nozzle could add a tremendous amount of supply all over our community. So it's just one piece of a large puzzle of resiliency we're looking at up in Trinidad and other areas. So I'm glad to hear you had adequate storage. But like you said, if it had gone beyond a block and it went on for longer, these are definitely things we all need to be looking at. I know OES has got this on their, part of their agenda in terms of water resiliency and safety and all that. So thank you. Appreciate that. And then along those regards, Sheriff Hansel, as you probably heard, City of Trinidad lost its entire water supply, mostly due to the slopes moving on Scenic Drive, which tore the pipes apart. And they probably were weakened from these big earthquakes we've had in the last few years. So is there any consideration of an emergency, storm-related emergency? I appreciate this declaration because this is critical right now, but there are a lot of communities that were affected by this storm, like King Salmon with roads and houses, and other communities' water supplies like Trinidad. And when you lose your entire supply, like I said, when it's high turbidity, it's hard to replace that water quick enough without having to backflush the filters every half hour, whatever it takes. But there are other areas, Garberville, other places had to reduce water use as well because of the high turbidity and other problems. So does it add up? I know that's always an issue of the total values and stuff. So could you speak to that?
For sure. So whenever we have a severe weather system, a winter storm that causes some kind of damage, we put initial damage assessments out there. We send it to all of our operational area partners, including the cities, and we ask, does anyone have any storm-related damage to the infrastructure, roads, utilities, any of those kind of things that we can track? And so those are the kind of things that we need to report to Cal OES to determine whether or not we meet a threshold, for potential, a state or federal declaration. Because if we're looking for reimbursements, we're going to need to get that state declaration in order to get reimbursements for that. And so we're constantly seeking that. And after the winter storms, a couple weeks ago, and then this one as well, we did have some of the damages to homes in King Salmon, but as far as Trinidad goes, we haven't had a damage assessment on that as of yet.
They're
as
getting it together for you.
Yeah, so if we can review that, we have, I believe, 10 days to declare, so we can still do that.
Okay.
But we need to get those things to OES and for that assessment.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Bone.
Yeah, and I thank Supervisor Madrone for mentioning King Salmon. I had over 25 homes with 4 or 5 inches of water in them, and I called everybody in sight. And I do thank the sheriff on the second day for getting some. We had so many looky-loos down there driving in it. We had 3 sewer trucks in the middle of the road pumping all the sewer because it was overflowing raw sewage. It was a mess. It was a mess. I know Department of Environmental Health did a drive-by, I think, when I saw them there. But as I was walking around in my waders for 3 days, but we have 3 or 4 houses that are going to be torn down. They're beyond repaired. So I tried getting hold of certain agencies and wasn't available. So the people of King Salmon, I appreciate John Ford is now going door to door, much like he did for the earthquake in Riadale and those areas, trying to see what help and trying to find out if there's any help we can provide for those people down there, because a lot of them have 4 inches of water in your house, and the problem was they sandbagged and the water came up. There was so much water, it came up through the floors. It bubbled up through the floors. So, and with the sheetrock and everything else, they've pretty much, a lot of them have lost their houses. I know they're dehumidifying and everything else. So with that, and then Chris, your guys, and the chief, I haven't gone over and looked. I didn't want to be one of those 3,000 looky-loos. I was up there at a football game for a couple hours the other day, but I mean, for the grandkids. But the looky-loos, the same thing in King Salmon. I can't tell people, if there's a major disaster, just trust us. Look at the pictures. You don't have to come see it, because it's a major disaster, and we don't need non-professionals there. And I don't know, and I hopefully for your storm drains and all of that, 2 million gallons were put on it physically, and probably another 10 million gallons from Mother Nature over the last few days have probably flushed, or hopefully has flushed the system out. And as you guys know real well, Humboldt Bay is probably one of the biggest flushing bays there is. I mean, I can remember when we had the 90,000 gallon gas spill years ago. They couldn't find a trace of it a day and a half later because it flushed all out. Not so much with the curry, with the oil spill, but so hopefully this, you know, and it went into the ocean, which isn't good, I understand, but you know, that does break it down quite a bit to where it's not affecting people directly. So we might be, you know, pleasantly surprised that you won't have to dig up every storm drain or everything else, that it just all flowed out with the rainwater and stuff. So I hope for the best for that. And much like all the supervisors down there and Chief Emmons did, the volunteers were there. I know, I talked to a couple of them, they were there the next morning still putting water on it. So big thanks to that, and hopefully everybody can recover from this. We always do. We did it in Fortuna. We're going to do it. We'll do it in Arcata, and this isn't the first time for Arcata. That Sealy Titlow building's taken a beating, so you know, SEVA will make it bigger and better than it was before. So that's the exciting part.
Okay, great. Yeah, and thanks for the reference to that. We have had fires in Arcata before, and has taken out the equivalent of half a block right next door. Mostly rebuilt, not completely, but mostly, and with some really thriving businesses. I also want to mention that Dandar's Board Games also has a website you can buy their products from as well. So by all means, keep doing so. And if you want to do looky-loo, Supervisor Bone, come on into Arcata and please come on in and buy some things and shop and have some good food. So
Can I ask you a question around
and Hensel's is open.
And that's right. And
Hensel's is open.
And Hensel's is open. And not only that, if you have things that you were wanting to get from the kitchen store there, by all means ask. I have to tell you, the loss of the kitchen store is pretty brutal.
I love the kitchen store.
So
But you're referencing to buying things online. They had them stored somewhere else, so they're able to.
no, a lot of these their sources for their retail sources, they can actually connect directly with them online.
Okay.
So what they're doing is they're still getting the profit margin from you buying it from online.
Okay.
They just don't need the
Makes sense.
brick and
I was
mortar
just
to
like,
do that.
didn't-
So. This is not Amazon books. These are direct from This is direct from the retailers
Okay.
themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
by all means. With that, is there any objection to unanimous consent? Seeing none.
He loves it. Efficient, right?
Seeing none, we have passed this motion 5-0. Thank you for your support.
Thank you guys all for coming. Merritt, it's good to see you. Likewise.